fall.
And then some kind of like a chocolate brown hints everywhere.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
What do you want to do?
I don't know, I gotta just want to do something at the house.
Heck, Alex is early today.
That's me a couple of the projects.
Less traffic.
Yeah. Must have been less traffic on the way here today.
That's pretty congested.
Well, this is early for you.
The crowd.
Do the Board of Adjustments, Bruce?
Yeah, we'll do board of adjustment first, that way they can, they don't have to stick around for the whole.
You've seen his car, his signal system. Have you seen that?
In the past,
Yeah. It's like, how do you do that? They just throw them over there?
yeah, yesterday I saw a guy in the gym, and you're all next to you, you're on the phone the whole time, and then he goes to the sink on the phone, puts the phone down, doesn't wash his hands, puts it back up, after he looks at himself, and goes back out, he goes wash his phone.
Good thing it's not food service.
Public areas, yeah, you don't know people, or their hands are, it's pretty nasty. Well, I can see why a lot of people don't show up, it's quiet and awkward.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it doesn't start until 7, so.
Yeah. They're just
Well,
catching up.
We'll be here in a few minutes, then, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're gonna run
Just signing my life away.
It's minutes.
Signing the minutes. Okay. They really give you a lot of room on these.
Is that the prelim? Yeah, try having my last name on that thing. Some of them put my initial on it too, which makes it even worse. Full name, initial, last name.
Just that front one.
I think that's the only one, yeah.
Okie dokie. No? That's where the arrow was pointing.
Yeah, it should have been supposed to be up the line, where it says City of Planning Commission. Chair, it's okay.
Have to reprint that one.
Yeah, we will.
White out or something.
That's right. That's right.
Who puts the arrows on?
It was probably me in this
Okay.
case.
Alright, we will call to order the Board of Adjustments. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No changes.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Who's second? Andy? Thank you.
Any opposed? Okay. We gotta do visitors to be heard, or, yep. We will go to visitors to be heard. Is there any?
Should I speak now?
I think when the item comes up.
When the item comes up, okay.
Seeing none, we will move on to old business, the variance for 608 South Main Street.
All right, Commissioners, this is an item that was tabled at the November 21 Board of Adjustment meeting. Again, as a refresher, the subject property is zoned general business for the purpose described in Chapter 9 of our zoning ordinances as providing a commercial area for those establishments serving the general shopping needs of the trade area. Proposed uses are as follows: constructing beehive boxes with a CNC router for related retail sales, including exterior storage of the boxes, and renting vacant parking lot space for storage of vehicles or trailers. Both of those uses are incompatible with or not permitted in the business zone under the city zoning ordinance, and thus application for a variance was received. My analysis is included in the memo for your review. I've highlighted a couple of items here, probably the most significant being that the first item, an unnecessary hardship must be established by the applicant who applies for the variance. what I've highlighted here is that convenience, loss of profit, financial limitations, or self-imposed hardship shall not be considered as grounds for approving a variance by the Board of Adjustment. With the exception of the retail sales of the completed boxes and possible honey sales in the future, the proposed uses are not compatible with the business zone as described in the zoning ordinances. Please keep in mind a sales tax license, retail store hours, and a multitude of zoning regulations would need to be met. The construction, painting, and storage of B-boxes is a light manufacturing activity, and vehicle storage is clearly not permitted in the general business zone at all. Additionally, no hardship has been established, no exceptional or extraordinary circumstances apply, and granting of the variance does pose a clear conflict with existing ordinances and public welfare. Applicant has made no argument to this point that any of the above referenced requirements have been met. Without meeting all of the requirements for a variance, no such variance can be permitted under the city's zoning ordinances. Draw additional attention to Chapter 18.02B, which notes that the Board of Adjustment has the power to hear and decide upon petitions for variances to vary the strict applications of height, area, setback, yard, or parking or density requirements, as will not be contrary to the public interest, and that variances shall not be allowed to vary the use regulation, which is exactly what these are asking. This application is requesting a variance in the type of use which is not permitted under this chapter. As such, I recommend denial of the application.
Okay. Mitch?
I find this all kind of an interesting process. I was told on the day after I applied for the variance that Ben was making cabinets down the street at Brett's business. Is that correct, Brett?
I believe he does, yeah.
Okay, so you've never seen him do anything back?
Mr. Chair, I want to draw attention to 608 South Main Street in this case, as that is the property in question. Lennox zoning ordinances also maintain, excuse me, I'll pull these up here.
All right, when did Ben get his variance?
You'd have to talk to him.
I see.
We're
Well,
here
I can
talking
do
about,
that.
we're here talking about,
I see that, but selective enforcement of zoning ordinance is illegal. So are you taking an illegal action? It sounds like you are. Ben is renting from you, you're gaining financially, and he's producing cabinets. I don't think he is buying generic ones and putting them on the wall. I think he says custom cabinetry. That would make a certain scenario where at a city level, especially city governance, suppressing the action of a business owner is selective enforcement of zoning ordinances. In other words, pick and choose and come up with excuses. Now, where is Ben's variance? No one knows. But he's pulling his business out of Brett's location, which is just down the street from me. Now, you can go ahead and deny my variance, which is fine. That's up to you. I understand, you don't want to play reindeer games. I get it. But I can play reindeer games. I can file legal challenge against this, sue you. Brett's name will be at the top of the ticket, and the rest of you will be on the rest. Now, I might not win something like that, but I will collect sworn statements from citizens that you have burned your bridges on with this committee of Mickey Mouse zoning ordinances. Now, consider that. Sworn statements, you're public officials. I will seek sworn statements from whoever wants to make one. Those sworn statements cannot be withheld from the press.
So are you threatening us to?
No, I'm defining,
Commissioners, I would recommend
I'm
no further
defining
discussion
the
on this matter
process.
and taking action only.
I'm defining the
Sir, I'm sorry I
process.
was speaking. Commissioners, I would recommend no further discussion on this matter and taking action only.
Yeah, you might want to just adjourn altogether.
okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
I recommend motion to deny.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, who was the second? Thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed?
How does this, why am I here?
Motion carries.
Does that have anything to do with the trailer?
In case you wanted to speak.
I definitely want to speak, I just don't know all the flow of how this works. I'm a layperson, I don't understand the process, but I have a stake in this as well, as I've got a business on the landlord's property. I just don't know where I play into this. I've got no communication on my end, so. But I do have something to say. Like, am I being targeted as having to remove my business if this gets denied? Is that what's happening?
Commissioners, you've taken action on this item.
Yeah,
You have not adjourned.
I truly have no idea what's going on. I'm asking if my business is at stake here.
what we've ruled on is the conditional use permit for the address of
Variance.
608, or the variance at 608 South Main Street.
So that includes the commissary kitchen and my roasting operation?
It does not.
Okay, that's what I was confused on. I did not know what was going on right now.
It's for the use
This
of
is for the
exterior
high-
storage and the light industrial use.
So to be clear, am I being asked to remove my business from the property?
No.
Okay.
So I would-
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? All right, we will adjourn at 7:09. And move into the planning and zoning.
Was it during the meeting?
So the Board of Adjustment is done meeting, now the Planning Commission is.
Yeah, different meeting.
All right. Oh, sweet.
Are there any additions to the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Motion and second, all in favor? Any visitors to be heard? Seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes from January 23rd, 2025. Make sure to spell Couple's name right.
It's good.
Sorry.
I would move to approve minutes from January 23rd.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Kyle.
Pretty slow start to the year. Got 8 permits so far this year. 6 of them are for miscellaneous projects, and two of the permits are for a twin home. A lot of basement finishes and windows. Any questions on my building report?
Sir.
As for code enforcement, I went from January 22nd to February 21st. I had the 1 violation for exterior building in poor condition, 1 for parking on grass, 1 for unsightly trash and junk, and 1 for inoperable vehicles. Any questions?
No, sir. we'll move on to the vibrant commercial Main Street conversation. Looks like Nate included some,
Yeah, some additional information here. So this is just a continuation of the discussion held at the January Planning Commission meeting. Tonight I just want to get some consensus on the direction the Planning Commission would like to move with the discussion. So I put on your desk, there's an article there from, I think it was South Dakota Municipal League magazine from last month that was on downtowns. Thought, okay, let's include that. Business improvement districts, vacancy ordinances, zoning compliance and compatibility, which is similar to some of the discussion we had at the last meeting. And spurring property turnover was discussed at the last meeting, but I just don't know that that's something that we have any jurisdiction or authority on, right? It's not our role, right? So I just want to get discussion and some direction on this so we can start moving items in that direction as discussed.
I guess related to that, the Centerville one that I guess was sent around, that did have some language in there to like list your property within a certain time frame.
It did. I don't know how that's enforceable, right?
Okay. It's based on vacant properties, right?
Right, I mean, it's one thing to say, you can't have a vacancy for more than X many months. It's another to say you have to list it or you have to lease it by such point, right? I don't know how well that would stand up.
I'm assuming they had a lawyer look over that,
I would assume so.
so there must be.
you're saying a lawyer's never been wrong before?
Unless Sioux Falls has a similar ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sioux Falls has a straight vacancy ordinance, if I remember right. I think that one actually has a bit more teeth to it though. But Sioux Falls obviously has opportunities to, more opportunities to lease or sell space than we do. So setting that enforcement mechanism, I think, is really important. Like figuring out at what point do we say, okay, enough is enough.
Are we mainly looking at setting rules for the downtown, or are we looking at trying to generate businesses downtown? Recruit people to some,
Both.
I think they go hand in hand.
do we have any type of committee, think tank, if you will, hey, what about this type of business or this type of business? Have we reached out to any other businesses in other communities? Hey, would you consider branching off if we had a property for you to move into?
I think the LADC does a little bit of that. Maybe not, I don't know that they cold call people, seeing if they'll come to town, but I think they kind of do pursue some things. I think they close on the one building at the end of the month on Main Street, the old Lewis. I think there's a business coming from the sounds of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know there really is no perfect answer to it, but there's gotta be some, if we don't do something, I mean, we gotta try something, because what's been happening over the last 8 years I've lived in town, there's just been nothing, a lot of talk about stuff, but we haven't really taken the step into action. We really haven't done any action.
A culture or character will be developed either way, and so we have the opportunity to be intentional about what that vision looks like. One word I've been using a lot to research is placemaking, and how strategies for that. So I've got a couple PDFs I could share this particular one is called Activating the Main Street Approach Through Placemaking. It has some strategies identified, and I also identifies the challenges that we would come up against. So I can share that.
What's a definition of placemaking, just so
Yeah,
I understand better? What,
I'm
like,
not-
I have a picture in my head, but I don't know if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not gonna butcher it, so I'm just gonna read from this, but let's see. It's made visible through tactical actions that become popular in many downtowns. Let's see, using public spaces to create vital, vibrant, and livable communities. Let's see, revitalization is used a lot. And animating the places and sparking economic development.
When I hear placemaking, like, I had envisioned us building something with places for businesses to come in.
Absolutely.
You know.
Like Maker's Place and stuff like
That-
that.
Yeah, or even, just some sort of, I don't wanna say a strip mall, but some sort of building that can have multiple tenants, where it makes it more affordable for someone to try and start a business. Where so you have multiple businesses paying for a building instead of
Yeah.
one business trying to take on that capital right out of the gate, That's what I thought placemaking was.
Yeah.
And it kinda is, I guess.
Yeah, placemaking is kind of like, how do you make it a place people want to be, not just as a business, but, as a community,
Yeah.
as a home, and so on and so forth. It's what draws people.
So is it like a series of destinations? The other interesting challenge we have is our main street is not on the highway. So we gotta think about how you get to our main street, and does that also become part of the experience?
I think the Boynton project helped us have a way to bring people to our main street, but really, right now, there's nothing that says, hey, our main street is this way, it's just
Yep, that'd be a
a
huge part
smooth
of it.
road now.
I think with downtown, the only reason people go there is for doctor's visit, the bank, the bar, for specific reasons. It's not to go there and spend time there, unless you're going to the bar. So, that's where
Yeah.
I think spurring a business to come here, there has to be availability, of
Yeah.
course. But it's you can't decide what's gonna be here unless you reach out or cold call certain businesses that are maybe interested in going. There's a reason why Saddle Up, the truck by Sunshine, why they're off the highway, it's because it's convenience. And so, Chuck's and El Mariachi, they kind of draw them into Main Street off of the highway, but it's giving them more reasons to go down Main Street. And how to do that,
Yeah.
that's difficult, because
I think we might have someone coming in the new building that'll help
Draw.
give people a reason to be on Main Street,
it's great.
but hopefully we can find a couple more of those.
That's what my question is, what type of businesses are we targeting?
Yeah.
What, as a zoning committee, what do we want down there? To answer your question, when there's a baseball game, there's only one way in and one way out.
Yep.
You can't go that way because Chuck's is backed up to the highway for ice cream, so they cut driving down Main Street to get out of it, what type are we looking for? Coffee shops, are we looking for dress shops, are we looking for furniture stores? What are we looking for without a real vision? We can figure out the building if we have somebody that we want to come there. So my question is, we talk about, well, what are we gonna do? Well, what kind of business do we want?
I think the community tells us that, and I think along your idea of having maybe an incubator space where multiple businesses come and try it out and then expand when they're successful. Yeah.
I think when we did all those, I don't remember what we had, when we were at the school, kind of
The visioning
a
section?
visioning
Yep.
session.
Yep.
A coffee shop is like number one, you know, a place to actually go sit down, hang out, have a coffee or whatever. Place for kids to go, and I think that would be like the biggest get on Main Street is something like that. But you have to have other stuff throughout the day to feed it, you know, because you can't just be open from 3, you know, for an hour and a half in the morning and then an hour and a half at night, you know, and make it. You want to be open all day and make money. So I think we would need some more professional stuff during the day, an eye doctor, a therapist, you know, stuff like that, where people have to come to town and like, oh, I'll go grab a coffee quick, or something, you know, like a boutique or any retail would be good, but retail's hard on Main Street. Gotta fight Dollar General. But, I don't know.
Two things I'm kind of hearing we need to define to really start out is what a boundary is of what we're calling Main Street, I think, and then how to get there.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 2 different commercial zones on Main Street. You've got general business and central business. You know, do you just want to focus on central business, the 3 or so blocks north
That's
of
probably the
3rd?
most important part.
That's probably what we need
To
more,
focus
more
on.
traffic drawn to, because I mean,
Yeah.
the general business district that you're talking about is more like around the park and on the south end, is that what
Be
you're?
on the south end, and then there's an odd, goofy general business district off of North Juniper, but there's no business there. It's just, in my opinion, just a zoning mistake from the years past.
Starting there and letting that be a catalyst for improvement kind of makes sense as an approach to me, but
I feel like,
gotta start
I
somewhere.
don't know. I'm not gonna say Chuck's and Mariachi are on their own, but I feel like they do a very good job.
But they've got traffic, we've
Right.
got commercial operations
Right.
down there already,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I feel like they're already kind of set up for success.
Yeah, basically, Omarachi South, I mean, I feel like it's set up very well with the park, and it kind of allows the central business district to thrive potentially, you know, I mean, people are going to Countryside down Boynton and taking that way, and then there's also from the south coming north, and so I think you're right. I think setting up kind of a boundary for, okay, this is kind of our priority for Main Street and what the goal intended is, because I think that's what most of us are talking about.
What kind of, I don't wanna say power, I don't like that word, but
Authority?
authority do we have to like businesses that aren't open, you know, to go in and see what kind of use it's under, or check? I don't wanna say, yeah.
I'd say we generally know. I mean, you
Yeah.
put together a list a while back. I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
If we want to go in and inspect, we do have that authority, but we would want to quite frankly, we'd want to get an administrative warrant, and you'd have to have a reason to do so.
Yeah,
What about someone that's making cabinets?
Which is gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be, that's more of a zoning enforcement action. And I don't know if we want to start with that or not.
We're kind of doing it with like daycares, I mean, or was it just daycares?
Yeah,
I mean, not saying that every business is a daycare, but I mean, like, it's a type of authority, that's more of a safety type thing.
Or is it more reaching out to them and
I would
saying,
say,
hey,
how
what's your
open,
long-term vision
how
for this
open
property?
are
Yeah, that's a
people
good
to
idea.
discussion?
Yeah, like invite them to a
The
session.
The Nordmans were here during the discussion.
Okay.
Are they open to talking to see if there's any availability in their buildings, like open space for a business? Like,
I mean, there's probably a way to approach that discussion that isn't threatening and.
right, I'm not,
Like, if we were to approach individual property owners, that we just wanna sit down and have a conversation about what the current use is and what your plans are.
personally, I can do that. Can we do that as a planning commission? Can we go talk to people and say,
I
hey,
would not recommend putting it on the planning commission, just because you're a
Yeah.
quasi-judicial body,
okay,
that has to hear zoning cases and
Yeah.
appeals in some cases, so, it's generally easier to put that on staff, because that's, that's what we're supposed to be doing,
Okay.
essentially, so.
Or is it linking them with the LADC and getting them?
I think
Maybe
LABC
that's-
can easily be a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, some people might be surprised at what, like, oh, it's unused space, I could get this much a month in rent?
Is it something where it's best to do like individual meetings like that, or to reach out and talk like that, or is it something like last month, I mean, just having feedback from your neighbor to talk through what everybody sees Main Street being, I mean, seeing all the conversation, it was maybe a little, back and forth, but it was like, there was a lot of benefit, I feel like, I mean, where it was constructive discussion, not just like, everybody had different ideas. I mean, I felt like it was a good direction. So I mean, like, is it something where once or twice a year there's just set dates where the LADC and like city staff meet with them and have something just on Main Street where there's just open discussion about vision for Main Street, and like as a group, like it kind of creates the idea, and it's like a regular follow-up to the idea, because I feel like that's all the issue is. Everybody has different ideas, and we're all like excited on this high after something comes together, and then a week later, everybody forgot all was talked about, or there's no follow-up to what occurred.
I still am a little bit concerned with how few property owners were at that meeting.
Yeah.
Like, it was really just a handful.
Maybe we need to have coffee and sandwiches available.
Or donuts.
Lennox
Donuts.
Business Network could do something,
Something
but
for
I'd like to get that established before we.
I do know
Encroach.
that the LADC is starting like a business
Lennox Business Network.
networking
Yeah.
deal, where it might be worth, and if I make it this month, maybe I'll talk to Josh and some of the business owners and see if once a month we invite one of them to see if they would come and be open to talking to other business owners and see if maybe somebody would wanna do something with their space. I don't know. I can maybe talk to Josh, see if that would be okay. I'm not gonna invite people to his thing.
Right. Right. Hijack purpose, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anytime we can find a win-win or approach it as how can I be an asset to you and be a resource versus just this is what I want from the transaction, I think it'll be more effective.
I think having those conversations removes the fear of whatever
Right.
enforcement action we may be trying to. I mean, there are some enforcement actions that we currently have. I don't think we stopped doing those, but there are serious concerns we have on those. On other issues, it's not a serious concern; it's just a long-standing issue that we need to address and resolve.
I think personally, I would rather go the route of having conversations with people and trying to,
Incentivize it rather than
well, do that and
force it.
just enforce what we already have on the books going forward, as opposed to adding more government, more rules,
Making more work for ourselves?
Right. No, just,
So I have a point at which, okay, today's the day. Going forward, if you're coming in and doing a business downtown, it needs to comply with whatever
Yes.
Yep.
regulations we have in
So
place.
what are the regulations? What do we have in place?
It's really about the use of the zone,
Yeah.
similar to what we just discussed. what's appropriate for the zone and what's not, based on what's permitted and what's permitted under a conditional use permit.
Yeah, so like
If it's not permitted, it's not permitted.
if it's, I mean, central business district, I mean, for a business to move in, they buy the property. I mean, if it meets the general business guideline, I mean, there's.
So central business is retail, office space, personal service establishment, hotel, motel, public utility facility, public service facility, mortuary, hospital, clinic, private club, church, amusement, arcade, rooming, board house, motor vehicle, service station, accessory building,
Then a bunch of conditional permits.
and then conditional use stuff.
I see. Thanks.
But,
It's quick on the tree.
oh, I go to this a lot. But, in, I don't know who it's on. If it's on realtors or the people who are purchasing a property or the person selling it, but I feel like the communication as to what that building can be used for is never done until it's after the fact.
So it's been closed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of problems are
And
arising.
we often don't know of a closing until after it's happened.
Right.
So we're not even a part of the discussion of, hey, can we run this type of business at this property?
Yeah.
And we don't even find out until after the fact.
Regardless if it's our responsibility, can we still do something to raise awareness of and educate and almost present the value having those things in place brings? Because for me, I would argue that it's not just a hindrance and something because I like enforcing rules, it's protecting you now as a property owner from your neighbor moving in and trying to do something different that's not allowed.
Yeah.
I think education could be an important part of this.
Yeah.
Don't know how to do it yet, but I think it's an
Right.
important part of this. I think, again, it removes that enforcement aspect of what we tend to do.
Yeah, but how do you educate somebody out of town that wants to come in and buy a business like that?
No, I mean, just existing, if we can get the existing property owners knowledgeable on what appropriate use is, without fear of the $500 a day fine that we have in our ordinance. It's just, hey,
Yeah.
this is what we know. This is what we need you to know before you change anything about this property.
Yeah, well, yeah, a simple newsletter handout type thing,
Yep.
informational guide would be probably really beneficial.
The simpler the better, and I also think the why behind it is key to accepting.
Well, I think it's like, for instance, reinforcing the guidelines that are already
Yep.
in place, and there's a reason they're there. It's like, it's not creating more rules, it's just enforcing what's there and assessing what each business is probably doing currently to ensure that they are within the guidelines. But again, it's like you don't wanna walk in their business and say, what are you doing? It's finding the right way of going about it, and that's where LEDC hopefully comes into play.
So I don't know that there's any real big action other than to communicate with the central business district owners more. That's about it.
And I think to create incentives, I mean, continue to create incentives or like avenues of like the city and LEDC maybe communicating with them more frequently.
I think that'll happen with that Lennox Business Network.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is awesome, that sounds.
Yeah,
really
that's
awesome.
next week is the first meeting, I think.
I think so. Wish it was earlier, but we'll see.
Gotta start somewhere.
I know.
So what I've got down here, focus on Central Business District.
Yep.
At some point, draw a line in the sand, like we're enforcing moving forward on any change in use. And some sort of educational campaign to bring current property owners up to speed on what we know, what we're concerned about in the future, and what they need to know before they make a change in use. I think that's best done in person, not, like, I can mail a letter out, but I can't tell you how many certified letters get returned to us without getting opened.
Yeah. And I don't think it would hurt to just, on our part, look through this stuff a little bit. And,
Why are you looking at me?
no, cause you're the one that had the question.
Alex, hello?
No, just, and so say you're looking through this central business district and you look at the allowable, permitted uses. And you're like, well, this would be a real cool business that we could have in central business, but it's currently not listed in there. That's something we should probably address now, just to make it easier to find somebody in the future, you know what I mean? So if we look through that stuff and it's like, oh, I'd like to have this kind of business, but it's not necessarily included in any of these, we should maybe look at wording or changing the wording in our ordinances so it's an easier sell, you know? Because if you go to move a business in and you're like, well, we really want you, but before you come, you have to pay to go get a conditional use permit. And if that doesn't fly, then, you know, you're up a creek.
Yeah, I think really look at what the permitted uses are. It's entirely possible we're missing permitted uses.
Right.
That have become more common in the 10 years since these were written, you know, or updated, so. We were having a conversation with at the GUED conference this week, and a lot of the discussion on the energy side is revolving around data centers. And it got us going on a side discussion of how would we, if someone were to come to the city of Lennox tomorrow and say, we want to build a data center, what would it be defined as in their zoning ordinances? And we don't have anything.
The utility?
The utility substation is the only thing, but it's not a utility.
Yeah.
It's a service.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a service can be commercial,
Yeah.
you know? So it's just, we don't have a good definition on some of the things that have developed in the last 5 to 10 years. We just don't have definitions of them. And we don't have a good box in which to put them if they were to come to us.
So yeah, reviewing that kind of stuff, you know, every year or two, just to make sure our language is with, because businesses change every year, you know, new stuff comes in and it's like, if we can stay ahead of it, it just makes it easier to find businesses and easier to have a yes or no, not a, well.
Right. It makes, those well situations are very difficult for staff. We don't, it's more of a judgment call instead of having a clearly defined statute.
Thing is, we can't control who comes to Lennox and wants to start business, that's the thing. I mean,
No, but we can control the what, like.
But I want to make sure we have a discussion.
what's allowed?
Yeah,
Right.
we know what's allowed in each zone, for the most part. What we don't want is people buying a building, coming here, starting a business, and, yeah, you can't do that there. That's what leads to discussions like earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether they do their homework or not, it's still, it's not a situation you want somebody to be in, so.
So how do you educate the ones that are buying the property? It's educating their neighbors?
I think it's educating the current property owners.
Yeah.
And making sure they know that, you know, if and when you sell or you make a change in use, you've got to go through this process. You need to be clear and honest with your buyer or your realtor and make sure they know what's permitted here and what's not. It's odd, because on a residential scale, if somebody's buying a lot or buying, just buying a lot in town, it's very common for us to get an email that says, hey, what's this property zoned? But when someone buys a building downtown or along the highway, there's no communication on that, none.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, commercial sales are not required to do a property disclosure. So that further complicates it, there's nothing forcing anybody to
Yeah.
disclose zoning.
Does every new business need to get a conditional use permit?
No.
So what?
If it's a permitted use, like, so Brett read off the permitted use is an essential business.
Yeah, like an arcade is an approved use.
Yep,
They
they-
would need one,
Come open up your utility account, you're good to go.
yeah.
We don't need anything more than that.
So at what point, if at what point do they tell the city that this is where our use is, or I mean, you
They
just?
don't,
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
we hear about it on Facebook, that's how we find out.
But, so like, this is
Hopefully
all
it's
the
the
permitted
developer
uses, and then
firm
you can
or
get an
whoever.
additional use for.
If they've got a developer, if they've got an engineering firm they're working with, they're very good about communicating.
Different things.
I see.
Under each district, there's different permitted uses and conditional uses.
I see. Should have taught all this stuff by the mayor that,
Put it on Stacy.
or I just,
Yep, put it on Stacy.
I should just educate myself.
We can go through, I mean, we can do I think I sometimes take for granted what, you know, we spend our whole day in this stuff, you know, and maybe we should do a 101 on what's permitted and what's not, and so.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to go through it
I think
sometime.
it'd be beneficial.
And that would help us do the review of the permitted uses,
Yep,
right?
yeah, something might pop up.
I think it'd be beneficial.
Okay, we can figure that out. I don't know if it'll be the March meeting, but we can figure something out for a presentation of, you know, what each zone is, what it looks like, what's currently included. Okay. I think we've got a little bit here. We can get to work on a few things.
Or we could even do that as a Citizens Academy thing, and
That could
then
work.
just invite some people
That could work.
from the planning and zoning. You know,
I
kind of,
don't run Citizens Academy anymore, so.
who took over that? I missed one
LADC.
meeting.
LADC, yeah, you missed one meeting
Really?
and it's no longer on my shoulders, I love it.
Lucky. But with that being said,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
got a motion second, all in favor? Adjourned. I can usually just use the beginning, get people's attention.
Call it to order.